Hello, and welcome to today's episode of Date in a Blink, where we're hosting Sasha and Mike for a Blink date.
Modern dating sucks, but it doesn't have to. Here on the Date in a Blink podcast, you'll listen in on 10-minute voice-only speed dates between strangers. The experience is designed to move people beyond mindless swiping and marathon messaging. Our position on online dating? It's time to stop collecting pen pals and start, going on actual dates.
Online dating? That actually involves dating? Is that even a thing anymore? But for real, dating should be fun. We hope listening in inspires y'all to try new ways of meeting people. Tune in every other week to hear a new couple go on a date. In between, we'll talk to relationship experts about how the date went and what we can learn from it.
Will our handpicked podcast matches find love on these Blink dates? Or will they say goodbye to each other after 10 minutes and never look back? Tune in to find out.
Before we jump into today's Blink date, here's a quick word from our sponsors.
If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain a bit. It's totally free, and Anchor will distribute the podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and lots of other podcasting platforms. Not only that, but it has creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. It also lets you make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make your podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
We're here on Date in a Blink today with Sasha and Mike. I'm going to let you two dive in, but in case it's helpful to get the conversation started, I'm going to leave you with this question. What would you like to re-experience again because you did not appreciate it enough the first time?
Oh, that's a good question. Sasha, you want to go first, or do you want to answer the question?
I wasn't sure if this answer would be allowed. But I think I would want to re-experience my first LSD experience because it was incredible. I was in Joshua Tree and I literally saw the cacti in the desert start gyrating, for lack of a better word. I looked in the sky and there was kaleidoscope things happening and Bohemian Rhapsody playing, and it really was one of the best things that I've ever experienced. So I was like, I don't know if that's a good place to start, but let's start there. What about you?
Well, that's a good place to start for me. So
okay, good.
You know, I gotta say, I like the twofold Joshua Tree experience. You maybe wanted to. I would have honestly thought that was super cool, but the whole LSD thing, I've always wanted to try psychedelics out at Joshua Tree, and I know that this is, like being inspired by Entourage. You ever see that episode, or you ever watched Entourage before?
I actually I didn't get into Entourage at the right time. I think there was a time that it was popular and that was the time to get into it, but I tried watching it a few years ago and it was just a little too bro-y, where I was like, I don't think this makes sense anymore.
No, and I completely understand a show feeling too bro-y for sure. And it is too bro-y, definitely. Like, my brother's like 8 years younger than me, and like he loves watching that show. But like, I'm at a point in my life where like I'm not really like super interested, but like the trip they take to Joshua Tree is super sick, because he's trying to like utilize that trip as a way to kind of move to the next phase of what he's doing. So he has to decide what role he's going to do, the main character Vince. And so I remember like all of them like end up like taking, I think it was like shrooms out in the desert, and they're all like sitting there looking out into the wilderness and stuff, and like he sees what he wants to do next. And so I can completely understand like wanting to relive like an LSD trip out there. I hear some super cool things about Joshua Tree, but I've never been able to make it out there.
Well, I recommend it.
I would say for myself, something to relive again, probably would be one of my first like music festival experiences, because it's like the first time you ever go, you're kind of like overwhelmed by the size of like any the place that you're at, and so you don't really get to soak it in as much. Like, I feel like now that I've been to like a bunch of them, I'm a little bit more comfortable, obviously, like being around everything that goes on at something like that. But I think it's really cool to just maybe, go back and see, would I appreciate it more knowing what I know now, or being like a lot more experienced and like enjoying, different artists. Like, would I have seen somebody totally different? Were there artists there that I, would have loved to have seen that wasn't even aware of, because like the first time you go there, you can pick out maybe who you want to go with, or your friends make suggestions. But once you're like, once you know kind of like what kind of music you like and like what's offered there, it's almost like a completely new experience like every time you go. So I don't know if you've ever been to like, anything like, I've been to like stuff like ACL, Austin City Limits, Coachella, EDC, like all those
Oh,
places. And
cool.
yeah, and I feel like it's really cool to maybe go back and kind of like reminisce, but it'd be cool to like experience that for the first time again.
Yeah, for sure. I have not been to too many music festivals, but I'm excited for Smoking Grooves in March because I think every single one of my favorite artists is in the lineup. Like, I think there's Miguel, Semino, Thundercat, SZA. Like, there's just like all these, and Sir, like all my favorite like artists are gonna be there, and like the neo soul. Like Janae Aiko is going to be there, so I'm really looking forward to that one.
Oh, nice. Where's that located at?
That's in LA.
Oh, okay. That's, it's always really cool to get excited about a music festival. It's like and it's always, I feel like in the springtime when, festival season comes back around again. And it's always kind of like the most fun time of year.
Yeah.
So like, what do you do, Sasha? Like, what's your day job?
So I write for a preschool show by day, and I do stand up at night.
No way. That's really, really cool.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a 180, but like, I don't know, somehow they complement each other. Like, it makes sense.
Yeah, I was gonna say like that's kind of almost night and day, I feel like. But I mean, if they complement each other, that's even better.
By definition, one of them is during the day. But yeah. What about you? What do you do?
So I'm actually part of a program with Laura and Tally. So I run my own startup, and basically, I was the founder or the original idea person, and I have like two other co-founders. And
Cool.
I basically like run a lot of our like technical operations, and like recently I've been learning how to hire people, which is always fun.
Oh yeah,
So,
I have to hire people all the time in my role, and I think I've gotten better at it. But it's kind of stressful, especially when you're trying to hire with everyone else's opinion too, and you have to do multiple rounds.
Yeah, definitely. What's interesting too is my friend actually runs a comedy club, or I don't know if he runs it, but he actually is, he's one of the people I think who's a part of the comedy club in this place in Burbank. I don't know if you perform stand up over there, but they've been doing shows a lot recently. So it's actually been really cool to go out there. They've had some people perform who have like performed on like Conan and stuff, I guess, and a few other people who've been on like Adult Swim and stuff. So it's actually I appreciate kind of going to local comedy shows and like seeing people who have like really good routines. Like they have another place that opened up too. My friend performed at. It's like some place that's like a castle motif. Over in Burbank. I don't know if you're familiar with either of those places.
Yes, I am actually. I think I know both of the places and have performed at both of the places you're talking about, if I'm thinking about the correct places.
Yeah, do you know a guy named Alex?
I mean, there's like everybody's named Alex.
That's true. That's like a pretty common name.
Yeah, I feel like I know several guys named Alex.
Well, then next time I'm at one of those shows, I'll be on the lookout for somebody performing, I guess, whose name's Sasha, unless that's like an alias. But we'd love to hear one of your routines. I'm always super curious about how people put together a comedy routine, because that's
for
honestly,
sure. I mean,
in my opinion, one of the coolest.
I really enjoy it. Sorry, we talked over each other for a second.
No, it's cool. You were saying how much you enjoy it.
Oh, yeah, because my job is extremely corporate and I just didn't have a space to kind of be myself. So that's sort of what it is for me. Like, I'm really not into the acting aspect of it. I'm definitely more into the writing aspect of it.
Yeah. And, it's great to find a place where you can be yourself. And that's where I feel like in my world, a place where I can be myself is like expressing all the ideas that I have in the screen of space, which is kind of what we do with our like technology.
What industry is your startup in?
We're kind of more actually media. Our platform has to deal a lot with video. And so we've gotten you got an initial traction in like education, but you can use it pretty much for any media. Like if you wanted to create a film, you could use it for film as well. So it's kind of like my love letter to video, because I've loved video for like years and even created my own content as well.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I went to film school, but I can't say I'm doing anything with that presently, but I also do love movies.
Well, you're writing for corporate content. I mean, I figure that some of that has to, or, the content you're doing right now, some of that had to be influenced by the film school, no?
Yeah, kind of. It's just that children's programming is very kind of like, it's very bare bones. Like you're just doing the education part. It's not wildly, my role at least is not wildly creative in the way that some children's shows are. So I'm not really using my creativity too much there, but I certainly use it in stand up and other stuff that I do, like whatever this thing is that I'm doing. Like I just like to try different things.
Yeah, and I hear you there. I really like to try different things. Like that's why I was down to try this.
At this point in the date, I jumped in to let them know that their date had ended and let them say their farewells. After asking what they'd like to re-experience again, Sasha and Mike got the ball rolling discussing some less than traditional first date topics. I wonder if these two will go on a trip together, whether literally or metaphorically, or if they'll be going on their next adventure to Joshua Tree, seeing other people. If you're curious to know whether or not they matched, tune in next week where we'll chat with an expert about the date and reveal whether or not they did. That's all we've got for you today. Shoot us a message on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook at The Blink Date or at Date in a Blink to let us know what you think. If you want to try voice-first speed dating from the comfort of your home, download the Blink Date app today. You can also sign up to participate in Date in a Blink by visiting our website at www.theblinkdate.com. In the meantime, thanks for joining us for this episode. We hope you enjoyed listening and look forward to talking with you again next time.